Hi, gang. This is editing Leyla here. Fun little coincidence is on the day that I'm editing this, which is a couple of weeks actually before you'll hear this, is Shrek 2's 20th anniversary. That's just a little bit of serendipitous timing. I wanted to say happy birthday, Shrek 2. What a wonderful film. So please enjoy our accidental anniversary edition of Shrek 2.
Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm a gender-confused wolf.
And this week, we continue our excavation of the Shrek-iverse with Shrek 2. Before we answer the question, is this the best movie of all time? Remember, you can help us on Mortified, the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, or following us on Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
Aaron.
Do you remember the moment when you first saw this movie? Because we had this conversation during our last Shrek episode, which was like, I think we were both a little bit too young to have seen this like in theaters. But I know I saw this motherfucker in theaters.
I know for a 100% fact that as soon as Jennifer Saunders said C minor, put it in C minor, that I as a child began to levitate above the AMC seat that stayed levitating for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. So, we're doing our franchise dive, and I think this is the one that you were most excited for. Out of all of the Shrek films and other extraneous media, this is the one that you care most about, right?
Correct. But it is funny because watching this movie made me realize that I actually conflate. I like mentally combine Shreks 2 and 3 in my head.
Interesting. Okay, so that's another thing. My understanding is that this is the peak of the franchise, right? I've not seen a Shrek property beyond this, but from my understanding is that like 3 and 4 are like kind of fine to bad.
I don't remember either of them being bad, but they are. This is the peak.
Okay, yeah. That's kind of what I think. I think it'll be interesting to see the ways in which the franchise kind of evolves and iterates after this, because like, how do you top this one?
You simply can't. And also I mean, like, there's just so much happening in this movie.
Yeah.
I genuinely, it was, like, hard to process how much was happening in this movie. They really took the concept, they were like, oh shit, this made money, and then they upped the budget, and from the moment Counting Crows comes on, you're in.
Yeah, no, this... I didn't realize how much this movie like had affected me until I watched it again last night, and like started getting emotional. Not even like, I mean, I did cry, right? But like, I'm pretty easy to make cry. But like, just like the like familiarity of some of the sequences like awoken something in me that I was like, yeah, I can see why this had such a profound impact on me. It really hit me at like peak. I think this is the most excited I had been about a film property, until I got into like anime, right? Like this hit me when I was at that age where like you're not quite a teen, or I wasn't a teen when this came out, right? But I was old enough to like start developing into that like preteen era, where you start like getting into your own, specific tastes and ideas, and like becoming the person that I end up being today. But like, this hit me at like the peak of like being a kid, but also understanding like, media in like a more adult way. And I think I was just like the perfect age to watch this movie, because like the jokes were all like, silly and crass enough to work for a young person. But like, I also was able to be like, oh, that's from something that's not this. And we can talk about this, but like just throughout the entirety of this movie, I was like, I didn't realize how many like references to other film properties and franchises, etc., are just like in here for no reason. But like, I just remember like having that recognition of that and being like, oh, I didn't know media could do this, and that being so exciting to me as a kid.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's very referential, and like just the melodrama. I think the opening of this movie is one of the best openings to a movie ever made. It's just because it's such a good character intro for Prince Charming, and it's just so funny and so melodramatic and sets such like a funny campy tone for the whole thing, because it's Prince Charming narrating what's supposed to happen as he rides in, takes off his helmet, takes off the hairnet under the helmet, does the infamous like hair shakeout, right, to be like, hello, I'm here, I'm glorious, and then realizes Fiona's not there, and it's the big bad wolf instead, and he's like, she's on her honeymoon. It is so fucking good. It gives you an intro to what was supposed to happen. It tells you what happened in the last movie in case you missed it, and then also introduces Charming, who's a hysterical like side villain, I guess. He's not even the main villain. And then takes you right to Shrek and Fiona, who are very in love, very horny.
Yeah, no, like actually watching this back now that I understand what sex is, like it is like, oh yeah, they're just fucking, right? And like a lot of it, like that first sequence is just like, you know, about how, you know, they're hooking up. There's a bit where like, you know, they're like on the beach and like, you know, they start making out on the beach. And I was like, okay, that's pretty horny. And then like a wave washes over them, and then there's a mermaid. And then Fiona, the mermaid's making out with Shrek instead of Fiona. And then Fiona throws the mermaid into like a pool of sharks. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. This is already just like, this is the tone of Shrek, right? It's like taking those familiar touchstones, you know, being a little bit adult, like having that a little bit of adult, you know, content for parents, but also just being like, you know, funny and being and irreverent. But like I don't think it is irreverent in the way that like South Park is irreverent, right? It's not being like, oh, haha, the Little Mermaid is stupid. It's just like, you know, Fiona would absolutely throw a mermaid into a shark pit, because that's just like kind of the tone this franchise has.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. And I think you said there was a reference to Lord of the Rings in that opening intro too. Like they start with the references quick.
It's so fast, yeah.
And then we're just kind of rolling into the summary, but when they come home to the swamp, first of all, the little touch of the Beware Ogre sign is now Beware Ogres.
Yeah.
Where Shrek had like nailed an S and a drawing of Fiona to the sign.
Cute.
It's really good. And then immediately we get right back into the movie references, because as soon as we introduce the fact that Donkey is there because his wife is pregnant and cranky,
Donkey?
and he leaves.
Donkey, you know, watching this back, I was like, oh, Donkey, you're a fucking scumbag, dude.
Because we know the dragon's pregnant.
You knocked up the dragon and then just dipped because she was moody, and like you just went to go hang out with your friend. You suck, Donkey. Dragon deserves someone better.
I know.
That someone's me, but we can't get into that right now.
Well, we know that the dragon's pregnant because we know that the dragon's pregnant. We've seen this movie. But it is a post-credits reveal that is very good. But, yeah, so he shows up, and then immediately royal messengers show up. And, again, one of the like, trumpet players that's doing the fanfare as the messenger is rolling up dips into the Hawaii Five-0 theme.
Yeah, it's just fun, right? Like, you know, I don't know that it adds anything. I'm like weirdly torn on like the references here, because like they don't add anything, right? They're not, you know, it doesn't really make sense for the guy to be doing the Hawaii Five-0 theme, but like it is funny, and like it is something for the parents, right? It's to be like, oh yeah, I get it, even though the kids don't. But also like at the end, the chief page or whatever like whacks him because he's like, you know, doing this solo for no reason, and that's also for the kids. So it's like, you know, it's able to straddle the line.
I think you're right. I think you're hitting on something here where, like, the references a lot of the times are for the parents, but the beats work by themselves. Like, it doesn't matter that Fiona getting frozen midair and the camera spinning around is a reference to The Matrix, because for the kids, that's just funny.
Yeah.
But for the adults, they're like, oh, that's a reference to The Matrix, which is, I think that's why it works. When it's a reference and it needs somebody to understand the origin material for it to work. I think that's when it would flop. But because like every single reference in here stands alone, or doesn't have to stand alone, it's just a good beat on its own. I think that's why it's fine. But so we find out that Fiona's parents, the king and queen of Far, Far Away, want to celebrate her nuptials, her marriage to Prince Charming. Well, weird, with a ball, and so they call her home to the kingdom of Far, Far Away. And they get into a little garlic-shaped carriage.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that this movie... So, firstly, this movie does not have enough Fiona in it, which is,
not nearly.
Really frustrating because I think Cameron Diaz is great, and I think Fiona as a character really could have benefited from some extra exposition here. But that said, like the central tension of this movie is really interesting because it's like, you know, it is a classic, like, oh, you know, I've met a girl, you know, we hit it off, but now I have to like, you know, make it with her parents. And like, there's like this extra element of like, you know, I guess racial tension on account that Shrek is an ogre, right? And now his influence is like, you know, you made the spell on Fiona permanent. Right, so she is also an ogre, and like I think that's a fascinating like thing for a kids movie to explore is like, you know, what you're trying to do when your family like that you ostensibly love and care about like also like doesn't get along with your partner, and like and it's because of these like superficial in theory you know circumstances. Like again, a weird choice for like a kids like it's not a quest like it was in Shrek 1. It's like, you know, it is like entirely family drama. Which is you know a really weird choice to make, but I think it absolutely works because like I guess even as a kid you can be like, oh, you know, I get why, you know, Shrek wants Fiona's, you know, family to like him, you know, that's a simple enough premise, but you know,
family drama shot documentary style. Like the camera a lot of the times is handheld and does a lot of like zooms, like in reaction to something appearing. So it's shot like The Office. It's shot documentary style, and it's a family. It's a cool choice. It's neat. I liked it a lot. But yeah, I mean, so the trip to Far, Far Away takes forever because the kingdom is far, far away. It is ostensibly Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Hollywood.
They have the Far, Far Away up on the hill. Everybody's a movie star. They're, like, which like leads me to like think about what the like, you know, film industry in this world looks like. That is ostensibly a medieval world. You know, like the Cinderella, all the princesses have like the big mansions. It's weird.
Well, this film introduced technology to the realm because Shrek has a TV. Fiona has a talking action figure. It's weirdly modern, but like in a fun way. It didn't like take me out of the world or anything. Like I feel like the production designers just got to play this time, which is just fun. But yeah, so they arrive at the kingdom, and then naturally meeting the parents is awkward because they expected their daughter to be beautiful and with a prince, where she is an ogre with an ogre. And the first dinner does not go well.
Yeah, you know, we immediately get meet you know, Queen Lillian and King Harold,
Julie Andrews and John Cleese.
Yeah, like all-time casting. You know, we talked about the stunt casting in Ants last episode, which, you know, bad. But like here it's really effective because, you know, the Queen is like the most normal person in the movie. And of course you cast Julie Andrews, you know, like, you know, the Hollywood sweetheart, you know, like it really works really well. And then like, you know, frankly, I don't know much of what John Cleese has been in. But like
everything.
I think, yeah, his IMDb is stacked. So like, you know, he's been in a lot of shit. I just hadn't like recognized him because I don't know anything about famous people. But like, you know, I think he's a very effective like king who is like, it's also set from like his character is the character that is motivated, or not even motivated, but like we are told explicitly at the beginning, like Shrek makes this point that like, hey, your family locked you in a tower. Like, don't you have any weird feelings about that? And Fiona's like, well, it's for my own good. I think that gets completely underdeveloped. I think that they could have really stretched that out there and kind of extrapolated on the themes there. But you know, right? Like, so we know that about or King Harold, right? Is that he is the person who like made the decision to set Fiona up in the tower, right? So like you kind of are already like, okay, this guy kind of sucks. And seeing him interact at this dinner is a really interesting thing because like he's like getting increasingly angry, and I know that's like partially funny, but like because then he and Shrek can have these like arguments where they like are like eating like with very bad table manners, and they both grab the pig from either side and they like launch it up into the air. But like I think probably the thing that I thought that reminded me most of this was, I'm sure you've seen this clip from, I want to say, the 2013 like short-lived Muppets TV show, where Fozzie Bear is like going to meet his girlfriend's family, and the dad is like he's like competent blending her mom's cooking. He's like, oh yeah, I love the salmon. And the dad's like, oh yeah, you hear that? The bear likes the salmon. And then Fozzie Bear just like looks at the camera like, hey, what the fuck? And like now forever, that's like whenever I see that on TikTok, it's like Fozzie Bear microaggression. That's what this scene felt like to me, except it's not a microaggression. He's just like openly being like, oh yeah, so you eat your own young, right? You ogre, you horrible monster. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about this scene?
I liked it. I thought it was fun, especially because Julie Andrews is just sitting there going, oh, it's so nice to have the family together. Like, just try to eat dinner. And Fiona gets really mad, at both of them in the end, as she should, right? Because Shrek hasn't had the best attitude about this entire thing, which reasonable given what he's been through with humans and such.
I'm fully on Shrek's side here, but
I agree. I am on Team Shrek, but if I were Julie Andrews sitting there, I would be like, these men are fucking acting up.
The framing of that shot's really good too, because it's like it's centered on Julie Andrews, but like bits of food are just like kind of like flying in from out of frame because her husband and Shrek are like doing this like macho man thing. It's really good.
It's good. But so afterwards, Fiona gets upset at both of them, as she should be, and leaves, and goes to her bedroom, where we meet the best character in all of cinema. And it's so good. She cries one tear, and then down in a bubble comes Fairy Godmother, and launches into this Fairly Odd Parents-ass song, where she just lists a bunch of things she could do to make Fiona happy. And like you said earlier, like there was this memory of, oh my God, I remember this song. And I remembered about half the words, which your wife remembers all of them, which is very impressive. And the thing that I remember used to get stuck in my head, just individually the line, is sexy man boy chauffeur Kyle.
Yeah. I remember him. He has like this whip. He is like smacking his ass.
He's bedazzled. His name is bedazzled across his chest.
It's really good. Yeah, like again, this franchise not afraid to be horny, even in like a ostensibly kids movie.
Not afraid to play around with gender a little bit in like a truly edgy for the time way.
Yeah, right. This is 2004, right? Like right around the time of George W. Bush's second election. So like, this is actually like pretty cutting edge considering like the huge reactionary surge that's going on in the United States at the time. So like pretty impressive. I think, we talk about like the sexlessness of movies that has lasted for a long time. And like, I think like we are starting to see that like take over. So I am kind of thrilled that Shrek 2 was not afraid to get horny with it. So shout outs.
And during this sequence, speaking of George W. Bush, during this sequence, Fairy Godmother shows Fiona a portrait of a prince. It is Prince Charles, 20 years younger at the time. Why did I think that was W until today?
It does look a lot like W, now that you mention it. It's just like kind of a goofy looking white guy. The only reason I even clocked that is because like this week...
because you're obsessed with the royals, famously.
Well, in that I wish them nothing but the worst, yes. But like, being a half Indian person, but like, also, like Charles's like royal portrait got unveiled like within the last couple of
what the
weeks,
fuck is that portrait?
And it looks like something from fucking Diablo or like Warhammer. It's just like all like Charles like coming out of this like wall of flesh and blood. It is the most bonkers thing I've ever seen.
I read the article and it was like, they love it. I'm like, do they? I would have loved to watch that unveiling.
Yeah,
I really would have. This
sure.
90-something-year-old man with cancer, I'm sure is thrilled with this painting that makes him look like, the fucking he's walking out of a bloody fog of war or some shit.
I was gonna say, yeah, like a fog gate opens in Elden Ring and Charles steps out.
Oh yeah, the fog gate opens and you walk in. There's like a big wall of lava or some shit. And it's Prince Charles stepping out with the butterfly, and the butterfly does the most damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Nope.
Anyway, so Fairy Godmother sings this song, and she's like, "Look at all these things I could give you to make you happy." And Fiona's like, "I don't want any of these things. I want my husband. That is what I want, and I'm mad at him, but that doesn't change what's going on." And Fairy Godmother is like, "Fine, I get it, but like, if you ever need anything, happiness is just a teardrop away," and she gives her business card. And then we pan up to see that the royals overheard this Shrek shows up at the end there, and this is where he meets Fairy Godmother. And he tells Fiona that they are leaving, and Fiona's like, "You're being an asshole. No, we are not. You need to give this a shot." They get in a fight, and then we pan immediately up to the royals who overheard that entire fight. And again, we see more of this, like, the king wants to do what's best for Fiona, and then the queen is like, "What if you actually just gave Shrek a chance? She seems really happy." And I wish I would have easily cut the entire "Are we there yet?" sequence to do a little bit more father-daughter fleshing out there.
100%.
Because I agree with you. I think there's something there that was a little bit underexplored. But then a floating stagecoach pulls up to the balcony, and King Harold panics and closes the door, and who's there but fucking Dawn Fairy Godmother.
Yeah, no, she has her, like, big muscly goons, like, escort him into this like, limo. It's really funny, like, so the thing, it's pitched as, like, Lillian not knowing about his involvement with the Fairy Godmother, right? So, like, when she pulls up and he, like, yells in surprise, Lillian's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's just the old crusade wound acting up again," which I was like, that's good, that's funny.
I know.
Yeah, and then
what
like
is this world?
Yeah, this world is the history is all fucked up, but this is great. This is exactly what I want from something like this. But yeah, no, he gets in, and then like she is there with Charming, who's all pissed off.
And it's very like Mommy's Little Boy, where he's like, he starts being like, "I went through scorching desert and blustering wind," and she's like, no, honey, I got it," and it launches into the same speech. So clearly Fairy Godmother is pissed because the whole conceit of sending Fiona to the tower was she was going to send Prince Charming when he was old enough. They would get married, who is her son, and then Prince Charming would be king eventually. That was kind of the goal. And now Charming is pissed because somebody got there first. And there's this moment where you think she's going to kill the king, but she just orders fast food instead.
Yeah.
It's excellent, especially for the visual gag of she gets the equivalent of a kid's meal for Charming, and it comes with a full battle axe.
Yeah, it's really funny. They have to like put it through the limousine window, and then it takes both arms to hold. It's really good.
It's good. It's a good visual gag. And she also, like, asks Harold if he wants curly fries.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, come on, Harold, you want, like, I'm getting stuff. Do you want something?" And he's like, "No, I'm really fine." She's like, "Okay, whatever." It's good. It's funny.
It's a good gag, but she's like, "Hey, you need to fix this. You need to figure out what the fuck is going on." And she's like, "Remember, I helped you with your happily ever after. I could just as easily take it away." So, or I think this is where she says it. She says it either here or in the confrontation later at the tavern, but we'll get there. So, the king sneaks away, and here we meet the second best character in the entire franchise. He sneaks away, and he goes to the tavern where the ugly stepsister works. This is the introduction of the ugly stepsister, one of the best characters, Doris. And he's there.
I didn't realize the ugly stepsister was played by Larry King.
Yeah.
And my wife mentioned that, and I was like, "Who's Larry King?" At the very end of this, and then I went and Googled it. I was like, "Oh yeah, the most famous talk show host in the United States at the time, Larry King. Yeah, that guy." Okay.
Well, he plays Doris, and the king asks Doris. He's trying to find an assassin, and he goes in to find the shadowy assassin, and he gives him a bunch of money to kill Shrek. These are the stakes we're playing for here.
Yep.
And who is the assassin? Antonio Banderas as Puss in Boots.
Hell yeah. So I think you posted in your notes that Mask of Zorro came out in like what, 98? which is wild. I didn't realize that was so recent to Shrek, 2, which comes out in 2004, because he is just Zorro.
Yeah, he does the sword thing with the P
right
instead of the Z. It's fully just Zorro. We should watch some Zorro films, especially The Mask of Zorro. I saw it when I was a kid, and I've had a crush on Antonio Banderas since '95. That man, I love him. He's incredible. There was a movie, I think called Too Much, like TWO, where he plays his own twin, and I feel like I'm the only person who has ever seen that fucking film. But I reference it. I've referenced it a couple of times in the last couple of years, and no one knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of this. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a rom-com. He plays his own twin because he wants to sleep with both women.
That's really funny.
Put it on the list. We should watch Too Much. We should watch Too Much and then The Mask of Zorro.
Yeah, no, it's the most unhinged double feature.
This is the Antonio Banderas fucking, the range of him. But yeah, so we meet Puss in Boots. He is ready to solve this ogre problem, and then Harold goes back to the castle and goes and knocks on the door, where Shrek is having a meltdown because he wakes up, and this was one of my favorite gags. Shrek wakes up, looks at the top of the canopy bed where he's sharing it with Fiona. There's a poster of Justin Timberlake, says Sir Justin.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. I really like this sequence in Fiona's bedroom because it does just give you so much insight into what her life was like, before she was isolated from everyone. And it's just oh yeah, of course she was raised on all these fairy tales, because she's a literal princess, but also that's kind of what the culture was at the time, right? This is the whole culture that Shrek 1 is lampooning, is the story of fairy tales and princesses being rescued by brave knights, etc., etc. And it is really, I could have done with an extra 10 minutes of Shrek just trying to figure out and piece together Fiona's upbringing and lifestyle, and we only get a couple minutes of it here, but yeah, just this whole looking at the toys of Fiona and the dragon and the knight, these stuffed toys, and then Fiona's little figure plays this thing, which is dear knight, please take this token, which is I think a thing that she says in Shrek 1, right? So it's oh, this is kind of calling back, being oh, this is what she's raised to have been believed, was raised to have.
That's probably a re-edit of that line. That's probably that recording of that line just with an effect on it, now that I think about it.
I mean, frankly, given how little Cameron Diaz speaks in this film, I'm not surprised if they did all her lines in one day and then just scraped everything else together. But yeah, but I think it's just a fascinating thing to imagine, and I love the position it puts Shrek in it, because it makes his motivations completely make sense, right? He's oh, I'm in this strange world, I'm seeing what Fiona was supposed to be, and I'm just the complete antithesis of all that. But he finally goes to the diary. It's of course this drives him to go do the rest of the movie, because he's so insecure about it.
Well, that toy arrangement has a dead ogre in it.
Right, just to really drive it home.
Yeah, just to really bring home the point. And then he goes through a diary, and the whole thing is just drawings and drawings and drawings and drawings of Mrs. Fiona Charming, Mrs. Fiona Charming, Mrs. Fiona, because she was promised Prince Charming would come get her.
Mm-hmm.
Then Harold shows up at the door, and he's hey, Shrek, I'm sorry for being an asshole. Would you like to go on this morning hunt with me? Which is just a way to get Shrek out of the house in the morning. For what? Puss in Boots to attack.
Right. And then he takes Donkey with him the next morning, and it's really funny to hear them arguing about who, because Shrek's I don't want to ask for directions. And Donkey's well, we went over to the spookiest forest in the land. We went past the menacing looking trees, and then there's this bush that looks like a famous person for some reason. And I don't know, right? It's very clear this was a setup. And then yeah, you get this ambush with Puss in Boots, which is really fun.
It's just what having a cat is like, too, because he's just climbing all over Shrek with his claws. My cat does that because he loves me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We get a little alien chestburster reference there. He climbs up a Shrek shirt and jumps out of it. and it looks like they're about to be slain, and then he just has a hairball, and then Shrek just picks him up, and he's like, "Well, got you."
And that's where he does the Zorro the thing in the tree, but it's a P instead of a Z. Just a good sequence.
It's fun.
And because Shrek showed him mercy, Puss in Boots now owes him a life.
Yeah, it's really good. And Donkey is like so pissed off about it. He's like,
Donkey is so pressed.
He's like, no, I'm the talking animal sidekick. Get the fuck out of here, Antonio Banderas.
And he does the big like cat eye thing, and that's when Shrek. I have the screenshot of my notes. It's so fucking funny because he's doing the cat eye thing and holding his little hat in front of him, and then Shrek is like nuzzling his head against them, also doing the big eye thing. It's really good. So then the three of these chuckle fucks remember the whole happiness is just a teardrop away thing. And Shrek makes Donkey cry, and they get Fairy Godmother's fucking answering machine. Where she's like, you can come by the office, we'll make you an appointment. And then they go, and this is the funniest line in all of cinema, we see it quoted all the time, they go, and in order to get into Fairy Godmother's fucking potion factory, and past Jerome, the guy sitting at the front desk, they pretend to be from the Union of Magical Creatures, Evil and Benign. And they're like, we're here to... Are you feeling depressed or oppressed in any kind of way? And Jerome turns the little megaphone away and goes, we don't even have dental. They don't even have dental.
They don't even have dental. Yeah, no, iconic. Yeah, really, really good. It's just funny, right? There's a pretty famous tabletop designer, Dave Prokopets, who I follow on Tumblr, who like recently commented on this, and he's just like, it is kind of just a wild shot in the dark that Shrek makes. He's like, he takes one look at this man, is like, that looks like a man that's oppressed. I'm gonna pretend to be from a union, and it absolutely 100% works, which is very good.
And it gets him into the factory, which just the Rube Goldberg-ass nature of this factory is so good. It's so goofy.
Yeah, they really look like, it really looks like Minions to me, again. I don't know if
Proto-Minions, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just seeing Minions everywhere because they're, how
they are everywhere?
You know how, like, sometimes you have dreams about falling, or, like, drowning because, like, that's, like, apparently descended from, like, an ancestor, like an ancient human ancestor, that, like, fell out of a tree. Like, that's where the origin of, like, your falling dreams is, like, theorized to have come from. I don't know if that's just something I made up in Assassin's Creed, but... You
sound like you have some weak-ass ancestors. I ain't never fallen out of no tree in my dreams.
I constantly have a dream about falling. It happens, like, once a month. But yeah.
I had a dream last night that someone stole my rocking chair and wouldn't give it back.
Fucked up.
That's what my dreams are like.
Weird. Valid. But what the point I was trying to get to is that, like, I think that I now, like, my children are going to have dreams about seeing minions in the shadows because I'm so traumatized by them.
But yeah, instead of dreaming of electric sheep, they'll dream of minion.
Absolutely.
Oh, what a terrible fate for your poor children.
Yeah, they're gonna have a lot of shit to deal with, I suspect.
Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think the factory is fun. It's very colorful. It's a completely fine, like, adventure sequence, right? Like, the main thing that happens there is they get the potion.
Well, Shrek argues the Fairy Godmother, who's doing her fucking love potion brewing in the most menacing way anyone's ever brewed a love potion ever in their lives. She, like, comes through this red fog with her arms up as she's doing it. It's very good. And then Shrek decides he's going to go steal a potion, and it's the potion of, I think, happily ever after.
Right.
And it turns you sexy, but you have to kiss your true love by midnight or it goes away. And so Shrek, it affects you, and it affects your true love.
Right.
So, Shrek drinks it, Donkey taste tests it for him. Shrek drinks the rest, and they both pass out once it starts raining. Fiona transforms in the castle. She passes out as she's trying to go find him and leave. And then Shrek transforms. So Donkey turns into a steed. What do you think happened to Dragon?
Oh my god.
Because we don't know.
I mean, I guess the answer is that Dragon remained a dragon, right? Like,
I guess.
I think she's
already sexy.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
God knows what happened to Dragon, but I'm kind of sad we don't get to find out.
Yeah, huge plot hole. I'm writing to DreamWorks. Sign my change.org petition. We have to get. It doesn't have to be like a whole movie, but it does have to be like a 10 to 15 minute like TV length episode where we find out about pregnant dragon getting turned sexy by the potion, and you know how that affects their children.
Well, would she even be? She'd lay eggs, so she wouldn't even be pregnant. She'd just be kind of incubating.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Yeah, I think you're right. It is probably an egg-based situation.
Yeah, so she'd just be sexy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sexier.
Yep.
So Donkey turns into a beautiful white steed. Oh, listen. As somebody who is not a big fan of characters who are originally monsters getting turned human, because I am scarred, betrayed, and abandoned by Prince Adam from Beauty and the Beast, who I think is fuck ugly compared to the Beast. Beast is sexy, Prince Adam is not. I've thought that for 30 years. I will continue to think it. They did a great job with Human Shrek. Human Shrek is an achievable sexy. He's like a hot bartender.
Okay, I can see it. Yeah, I mean, like, he retains a lot of, like, the Shrek features. He's still kind of a broad dude.
Very square in the jaw.
Yeah, but he gets, like, the really square jaws, and he's, like, really ripped. You know, I get it. I get why people are into him, I guess. I don't know. I mean, like, he's fine.
Casual would.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, I'm not like enthusiastic about it. I'm not dreaming about it, but like, yeah, okay, wouldn't say no.
Why not?
So they did a good job with that. I'm really proud of them. And then Fiona turns into her hot princess self. We've seen Fiona. So then Shrek gets on his steed and goes to see Fiona because their whole argument was that she's made a lot of changes for him and he's not changing at all for her. So he did this. And so there's a switcheroo that happens. Donkey stays outside with Puss. Shrek goes inside to meet Fiona. They, Hanna-Barbera style, just miss each other through doors. Fiona goes to see Donkey. Donkey's like, Shrek's here. So that gives credibility to the idea that Shrek is here. Shrek runs into the fairy fucking godmother who locks him in a room. And then Fiona...
Not only does she lock him in the room, but she makes one of the, like, furniture things threaten him.
Yes, he gets threatened by an armoire.
Yeah, it's great.
And then... Prince Charming slips in and pretends to be Shrek poorly. He's not even trying. Mm-hmm. And goes to kind of hang out with Fiona. And so at that point, Fiona can like smell some things up. She's like, your voice is different. I know Donkey said you were here and he's a steed, so it's understandable that you would be different. But, like, you're acting weird. I don't understand what's going on.
Right. I like this so much more than the miscommunication in Shrek 1 because it's much more believable, right? It's not just like, oh, we got mad at each other, so we had this separation for kind of no reason. It's like you get the setup, and there's like, you know, reasons why Fiona, like, should trust that Charming is Shrek, right? One, Donkey, vouches for it. Two, she's been transformed. And 3, she's never met Charming, so it makes sense. And then Charm and her dad, right? Her dad is in on it, right? So he's also, like when he sees Charming, he's like Charming, but then he like kind of fumbles and recovers. And like,
well, Charming says, "Yes, I know,
right?
Aren't I?"
Right. He sucks so bad, and also like at the whole time Fiona's like, this doesn't make sense, right? So like I but like she kind of goes along with it because it's the only explanation she's been given, but at the same time like she's just like, this is not right. And I think this is so much more effective.
Yeah, it works, and I would have been very upset if she just went along with it because we know Fiona's smarter than this,
right?
Fairy Godmother, meanwhile, is psychologically torturing Shrek because she's like, don't they look better together? Wouldn't she be happier with an actual prince?
Again, I think she is such a good villain for this, right? She could have turned him into a frog or something, right? Mm-hmm. She could have done any sort of like typical villain shit, but no, she goes for like the deep psychological, like, here's your insecurity as a character for this movie. I'm going to exploit that and use it to against you and drive you away from your wife. Like that's true villain shit. You gotta give it up.
She just gets him to walk out.
Right.
Like that's how good she is. She just gets him to walk out.
In The Art of War, General Sun Tzu says that like the best way to like win a campaign is to never have to fight. And that's what fucking Fairy Godmother is doing here. She is like, I'm not gonna I'm gonna make you defeat yourself, and you got to give it up.
Gotta give it up. So he goes to the bar to see the ugly stepsister again, and to drink his woes away with Puss in Boots and with Donkey. And then a suspicious, familiar hooded character walks in and goes to see somebody in the back room. And Shrek and Donkey go to eavesdrop. And who is it? It is Harold talking to the Fairy Godmother and Prince Charming. So this is where Shrek finds out that they are related. And this is where we find out. This is where she threatens Harold and says, hey, you need to give Fiona this love potion because she's not warming up to Charming, as you say, or else I will take your happily ever after away from you. And unfortunately, Donkey makes a noise because he's stupid. Talking of references, this is where we get the O.J. Simpson Bronco fucking car chase reference.
Yeah, rip to recently deceased murderer O.J. Simpson. But yeah, it is a wild choice to make this reference here.
Because it's not even, so it's, okay, so it's through the, and this is such a good device, because again, this is how the rest of the fairy tale gang finds out what happened, which is they're watching TV, and like all the celebrities are starting to arrive for the ball. They're arriving on the channel Me, which is a reference to E.
Right.
Joan Rivers is doing the fucking intro. Just great, like, cultural capsule. They get a bunch of the fucking intros for everyone. Fairy Godmother flies in. Everyone's fucking eating that shit up, loving it. And then Pinocchio is like, I'm not turning the channel until I see Shrek and Fiona. Meanwhile, Gingerbread Man is like, I need anything else. And then Knights comes on, which is a reference to Cops. And that is how we get the car chase with the Bronco. Because Donkey is a white steed, so he's a white Bronco.
Right.
And they're chasing him, and they watch the arrest of Puss in Boots. First of all, they make jokes about capitalist pigs, police brutality. I was like,
have you seen this GIF set on Tumblr that goes around occasionally, where if you slow down the frames, you can see the knights plant the catnip on Puss? Like that is. It's so good. Like this movie is like, fuck the police.
This movie said ACAB. That's really good. So
ANAB.
Well, it would still be a cab, but with a K.
Yeah, but because you don't say knight, you say knight.
It would still be. That's good.
All knaves are bastards.
Anyway, so that's when Shrek is screaming to the camera, I'm Shrek, find Princess Fiona. And that is how the gang does the Mission Impossible jailbreak of Shrek, Donkey, and Puss in Boots. And we jump from Cops, OJ, Mission Impossible, to Frankenstein, because in order to break into the castle, they need to enlist the help of the Muffin Man, who still lives on Drury Lane, to bake Mongo, a giant gingerbread man.
I got so excited for this, both in the theater when I was 9 years old, and now yesterday watching it, because it is like, first Shrek rolls up, he's like, we're gonna need flour, lots and lots of flour, like, typical action movie bullshit, and then like, they do the It's Alive bit, and then you get a kaiju, and then it briefly becomes a kaiju / fortress assault, because they have Mongo attack the walls of the far away kingdom. It's really good. Go ahead.
And there's something so choice about the visual of Mongo the giant gingerbread man with Shrek on Mongo's shoulder and then the tiny gingerbread man on Shrek's shoulder.
It rhymes. It's really good. There's a brief siege sequence where Mongo is like trying to cross the bridge. They shoot flaming catapults at him. They hit the gumdrop button. Really impressive lighting effect on that. The flaming like purple flame on the gumdrop button. And then like a really, when they hit the gun drop button, he does the Godzilla kaiju scream, which is really fun. And then a joke that I didn't appreciate now, or when I was a kid, but I definitely appreciate now, is like he like attaches his arms to the gate to like help them, try to bring the gate down. And they have boiling oil, but instead of oil, it's milk that they've like put in a cappuccino machine. So they've like frothed it up, and they like pour that on it. And I was like, that's an incredibly good joke, actually.
It's good, and then especially good after we were just introduced to the fact that the concept of Farbucks is absolutely a thing here. So yeah, they dump the milk on him, and then so Mongo for us has been Frankenstein, a kaiju, and then the Iron Giant, because as he pulls the door down and he sinks, and poor Gingy is like losing his mind that his friend is dying, which he doesn't die because he is shown in the final montage still alive underwater.
He's
crazy. He does do the Iron Giant be good thing.
Yes. No, I've never seen the Iron Giant, but like I knew that. That movie's too That movie's too sad. I don't want to watch it.
It's good. I have a complicated relationship with the works of Brad Bird, but that movie's a good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so they break into the castle. We're continuing the siege sequence because we're going through, Shrek's on donkey. They're going through. Puss in Boots stays behind to pay back his left debt.
This is where I cried. I was like, that's fucking right. It is the noble sacrifice, but also it's like really silly because it's a little cat with a sword. But yeah, no, Puss.
Great choreo in this sequence, though. Him taking on all these knights, it's good.
It's like a 10-second, clip, but it's so cool. He does the little cat, like, oh, I'm just a little kitty cat, and they're like, oh, and then he's like, pray for mercy from, and then does the whole on par with several anime sword fights that I've seen. It's really good.
I teared up for Mongo, so I totally, you were not the only one that got.
Hold on, we forgot the most important part.
While all this is all happening, so Fiona and Charming have entered the ball. And Charming needs to kiss Fiona by midnight because we saw Harold slip her the tea where presumably the love potion is. And Fairy Godmother's idea of setting up a romantic mood for these two people because Fiona is still like not feeling this. She's like, something is super wrong. Like Charming is like loving the cameras, loving the attention. She's like, this is not Shrek. Something's weird. And Fairy Godmother goes to the piano player and does the iconic C minor, put it in C minor. And then you hear the opening notes of a cover of Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero as she lays down on that piano, and it is the greatest cinematic arrangement of a song. I think the only thing that's gotten close in cinema for me has been the slowed down Gasolina in Fast X.
Yeah, I mean, that's, truly a strong contender, but I don't think anything tops this. Like, as a 9-year-old, I didn't know what it meant to serve cunt, but, like, I knew in that moment.
You learned.
Right.
You learned. So the entire time this siege sequence is happening, Fairy Godmother is singing Holding Out for a Hero with like cinematic choir music interspersed. And I think one of my favorite things is that she doesn't sing the second half of the bridge, but the choir is still going, like a fire in my blood, like a fire in my blood in the background. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, so, and then that's the background for this, like, castle assault, for the,
it's
sword...
for the flaming gumdrop.
Yeah. For the, like, the Puss in Boots sword fight. So, like, that's so good. At the very end, like, it breaks with Shrek, coming into the ball and saying, get away from my wife. It's like, yeah!
I mean, as a wife guy, I'm sure that did it for you.
No, it's truly, like, it's so good. I cannot believe they pulled off such a good, like, sequence where everything is firing and hitting. Like, this movie has no right to be this good,
and yet it is.
Yeah.
And so we finally get this sequence where Fiona's like, oh my god, there's Shrek.
Yeah.
And we get a brief fight with the Fairy Godmother. Are we 2 for 2 on villain deaths?
Yes.
She turns into Bubbles.
So she is like she comes back for the sing-along at the end, I believe. So like I don't know that she's fully dead. If we were gonna allow Mongo to live, I think the Fairy Godmother does come back. She's actually too good of a villain to kill permanently, but like
That's
you know,
true.
if we're taking the canonical movie bit, it seems like she does die here because she she realizes that Harold betrayed her, did not actually poison Fiona's tea. So she like shoots like a lightning bolt at Shrek trying to kill him. Harold jumps in front of the way. His like armored breastplate, his cuirass, like bounces it off. So he gets, magicked, and then the lightning bolt shoots back into hits the Godmother.
Okay, we don't have a marketing minute for this episode, but I need us to entertain an idea. Hold on. I just thought of something. Do you know how in Kingdom Hearts there's like the League of Villains?
Yeah.
Okay, there needs to be a Shrek equivalent of Kingdom Hearts. Can you imagine how much cunt Fairy Godmother, Farquaad, Charming would serve in a game that has magic and is about friendship? As Shrek parodies everything else, there should be a Shrek parody of the Kingdom Hearts format.
I would love that. I think there would be nothing would make me happier than seeing a council of villains like in Kingdom Hearts. I would love for in Kingdom Hearts 1, the listeners who don't have that great background. You have to fight Maleficent, and Maleficent turns into a dragon. And I would love to like see the inversion of that, where you fight the Fairy Godmother, and at the end, instead of turning into a dragon, you get Dragon to show up as like a summon or something. That would be so sick. Our brains are so huge. I don't understand. We're the smartest people in the world.
We are incredible, is what we are. Okay, so he shows up, Fairy Godmother's down, and then, Charming, I forget what happens to Charming. I love him, but I can't remember it, it's fine. And then, Shrek goes to Fiona, and he's like, hey, it's midnight. If you want to stay like this, kiss me, and then we just stay like this. And Fiona, King Thick Dick of Love Mountain, is like, I want my happily ever after with the ogre that I married, and waits until after midnight and chooses to stay an ogre with her husband Shrek. And then we get a sing-along, as we must at the end of a Shrek film, Puss in Boots and Donkey, now back to his donkey self, duet Ricky Martin's Livin' La Vida Loca.
It's so good. Again, like, I can't believe how much they knock it out of the park with this one. Eddie Murphy, Antonio Banderas doing this cover fucking rips.
And I forget what the reference is, but there is a reference to some famous movie with the
It's Flashdance, I believe.
The reference to Flashdance with the Puss in Boots pulling the fucking water over him. So good. And then, movie wraps. We get a post-credit scene where Donkey is sad because he feels all alone. Puss in Boots invites him to, presumably, a strip club. And he says no. He's going to the kitty cat club. And Donkey's like, no, I'm just sad. And then we get our girl, Dragon, with her half-dragon, half-donkey babies. And that's how we find out that Donkey is a father. And the last line of Shrek 2, one of the best movies ever made, is Eddie Murphy going, I need to get a job.
So good. Like, truly, like, I think I said this before, but like, there is like a level of sincerity to this like very parody heavy movie that like I truly think carries it through. Like, they're not leaning on the parody to be the backbone of this story, right? Like, even though Fiona is deeply underdeveloped, her whole arc does like stand. And because it works in conjunction with Shrek's and like is so sincere about their relationship, like it just absolutely crushes it. And like I am just astonished. Like, I haven't, seen a lot of kids media, since I stopped being a kid. Obviously kids media, still is produced and is made and is good, right? But like, I don't know. I feel like there is a level of like, being able to both, play to your childlike audience, but also, take the medium seriously and deliver an effective story that like you're not really getting outside of like the occasional, Disney, Pixar. I mean, I don't know. What was the last big DreamWorks hit even?
Oh my god. They haven't had like a runaway success in a while because I feel like the last big movie was the one about the mermaid and the octopus, but I didn't even see that. I don't think it did super well financially.
I mean, I guess the last, big, one that they had was highest grossing films. Shrek 2 is their highest grossing film ever. So,
Good.
understandable. I'm trying to find out their most, I guess it's Kung Fu Panda.
Wow.
Kung Fu Panda is pretty popular. Puss in Boots Last Wish apparently did very well, which
Last Wish is such a good movie.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that because everybody that I heard talk about it said it was actually like incredible. But yeah, it seems like DreamWorks really hasn't had. I guess like they did How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. So like it seems like they've dropped off. Like Boss Baby, I guess if we're thinking like 5-6 years ago, was like popular, but like. Again, I don't, we've actually talked about a lot of DreamWorks films on this podcast now that I'm looking through it. Like, we've talked about Dragon, we've talked about Megamind, we've talked about the fucking, the Easter Bunny movie, Hugh Jackman's hot Easter Bunny movie. But, like, yeah,
Rise of the Guardians we watched 3 weeks ago.
It's been a long 3 weeks. But, like, yeah, I feel like, at least with the DreamWorks, they never quite hit this high again. Not to disparage some of their new stuff, which is good, but like I really think that there is like a level of sincerity and craft here that like is hard to match.
Yeah, it's still a super talented team, but there's something missing the last couple of films. But I could say the same about Disney and
right.
Pixar.
That's not to say like Finding Nemo comes out the same year that Shrek does, and like I still feel like Disney has not really quite got to that level. I guess like Frozen comes out in 2013, which is a successful movie. I actually love Frozen. I think Frozen's very good. But I do feel like there is a level of like meta commentary in Frozen that is like it is trying to do a little bit more with its story, whereas like Shrek is just like wholly in the moment, being sincere about what it's trying to achieve. Which
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Frozen or Frozen 2, but Frozen the musical I actually really like. I took my mom to see it. I think it does a little bit of light restructuring and gives Elsa a little bit more to do in the beginning before she flips out and goes to the ice castle. There's also a really good practical quick change where during Let It Go, her cape, because it blows away in the wind in the movie, there's a literal human being crouching behind the platform and rips her cape off, and that's the effect. It's really good.
It's good.
Love Frozen, love the soundtrack. What Do You Know About Love is a great addition. But so anyway, yeah, it's been a minute since like the last big animated mega hit. I know they really tried with not Wish, Encanto, but I feel like that was like a flash in the pan, really. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Wish either. I saw Elemental, but only because I had a coupon to the Regal. You know what I mean? Like it's been a minute since the last like big animated mega hit. So on one hand, that's nice because I feel like Japanese animation has been getting a little bit more attention in the West here, because Miyazaki, right, took the Oscar this year for The Boy and the Hare, an excellent fucking movie. Would I want to see it again? I don't know. It did a lot of emotional damage. Was it beautiful? Absolutely. I was sobbing at the end, and my brother was like, "Did I miss something? Why are you crying?" I'm like, "I'm just old, okay?"
I'm 30. That's why.
I understand a movie about legacy, child. Yeah, but it's interesting. I am so glad that we're doing this franchise. It's just so much fun. I'm very curious about 3 and 4 and what we're gonna think of those, and then we should look into what the actual spin-offs are, and then maybe we'll do the Puss in Boots movie like 2 at a time, because I think there's 4 of them.
Right.
And there might be some other stuff. You know, we didn't watch. Fuck! We did not watch Far, Far Away Idol. I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Maybe if Shrek 3 is we don't have a whole lot, we can actually tack that onto that, because that's probably really, really important.
Because I used to have the DVD. I used to watch Far, Far Away Idol like a bunch because I was obsessed with how mean Simon Cowell was. Now I think it's mean spirited, but before it could be mistaken for serving. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, that's it for me, Aaron. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just, some of, all of our praise is absolutely rooted in nostalgia, right? Sometimes you just need to be a certain age to really appreciate a film. But yeah, I'm really glad to have revisited this, because I wouldn't have gone back to rewatch Shrek 2 without this project. So
when we're still doing Mortified in 15 years, and you have children who have enough brain power to compute,
right? No, that's no, yeah. When my kids are 9 years old, then I'll be like, all right, Auntie Leyla and I are going to show you a movie, and it's going to make your little heads explode. But yeah, no, when we are not, really digging up the best and juiciest media properties of the early to mid 2000s, where can we be found on the internet, Leyla?
You can find me at LEYLSCS on Blue Sky or Tumblr. I don't know, getting settled in my new apartment. I have some long-term projects I'd like to work on. We'll see how they go. Aaron, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at AaronSXL, Blue Sky at AAVoit, Tumblr at Monster Factory Fanfic. My main site is aavoit.com, where I write about tabletop games and writing generally. By the time this episode goes up, I will hopefully have released my next YouTube essay, The Heart of a City, where I talk about various city-building tabletop games, which you all should check out if you have any interest in those. And that's at aavoit on YouTube. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshco from the album Filmmaker's Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshco.bandcamp.com. Leyla, how should we close out this great episode?
I think it's time for us to go upside, inside out, living La Vida Loca.
Amen. We'll see you all next time.